Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now on today's video, we're going to play with the xTool F1 laser. This laser has a 10-watt blue light diode laser as well as a 2-watt infrared laser. The beauty of that 2-watt infrared laser is it'll engrave on a lot of different metals. When I first started using it, I wasn't quite satisfied with the darkness of the engrave or the depth of the engrave. So I've played a lot with it. I've come up with some settings that I think work really well for me, and I want to share those with you today. So in addition to the xTool F1 laser, I'll use my computer. I'm still going to use some safety glasses, even though with this down, you don't have to. I just like to. I'm going to clean my blanks with some 90% rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. And then I have a lot of things here that I've played with. I'm going to show you the results, and then we're going to do some new projects. So if this is something you're interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Now, if you're interested in any of the xTool products, I do have my affiliate link listed in the video description below. If you use that, there's no extra cost to you, but I receive a small referral fee, and I appreciate that. Now, before we do any new projects, I want to show you some of my experiments. And let me preface this with saying that showing engraving on metal is very difficult on camera, but I really hope that you can tell the difference between these engraves. There is a huge difference in how these came out, and that's because of the different settings that I used. Basically, I started progressively slowing down the speed so that the laser would have longer at each point that it was engraving. And I used the infrared laser for all of these. All right, let's move on to the dog tag. In the software, xTool Creative Space says to use a power of 100 with the infrared laser and a speed of 50 for this tag. And that's the engrave. It doesn't look bad, but I can't even feel that it's on there. So I started playing with these settings. Here's another example of using the speed of 50 with the power of 100. And then after I dialed in my settings, here's what I settled on. Hopefully you can see that is quite a bit better. Now to show the progression, I actually use this knife, just a cheap knife I got at Walmart. It's a stainless steel knife. I started with that speed of 50, then I went to 40, then 30, then 20, and then finally at 10, I started feeling a lot more in the engrave. So it started getting deeper. But I kept going. I did a speed of 5 and a speed of 2. Now that speed of 2 looks great. There is a payoff. When you slow down the speed, it greatly increases the time of your engrave. But do I really need something to engrave in 6 seconds or 8 seconds? If I'm trying to sell to a customer, I'm going to take a couple of minutes and have it look a lot higher quality. Then I started playing with something that was a softer metal. I don't know if this is aluminum. I'm not really sure what this is, but it's a softer metal than these dog tags. And so this is actually a speed of 10. For all those engraves, it's a speed of 10 with the exception of the top one. So this was 10. This was an engrave. This was a score. A score is when you just mark around the outside. And that's when I started discovering to slow down my speed. Because when you do this, it told you to use a speed of 50 for the engrave, but a speed of 2 for the score. And so that's why I started slowing down the engrave, and it made a big, big difference. So this was a speed of 10, speed of 10, speed of 10. I tried a speed of 20. I don't think it's as good. Again, it's hard for you to tell on the camera, but the speed of 10 is better. I'm going to go ahead and redo Scooter on the other side with a speed of 5. I'll show you how I did the top of the candle tin. And then I'm going to engrave one of these metal rings for my great nephew Carter. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and jump on the computer. I'll open xTool Creative Space. That's the software that they use to communicate with their lasers. It is very user-friendly, very easy to use. And then we're going to start these new projects. Now each time that we process a job, I'm going to have to press this button right here. I wanted you to see that before I zoom in on the part that's really important. Now this is xTool Creative Space. Again, this is the software that xTool uses to run its lasers. You can also do some designing in here, which I rarely do, but I will do it on this video. The first project that I'll make today is I'll go ahead and redo Scooter's name tag. Scooter is my sister-in-law's dog. So I'm going to hit text, and I'm going to go ahead and back up over hello. In all caps, I'm going to type out Scooter. Now I found a font I really love, and it's called Lemonade, I think. No, it's called Lifesavers. So we're going to use Lifesavers. I want to go over here and say I'm going to engrave this, and you'll notice it fills in. Right now, it's on score, so it would just mark a line around the inside and the outside of each letter. So we'll change that to engrave, and now it's going to fill in the entire letters. All right, that is way too large. My little blank is only going to take a little bit less than an inch, so I'm going to put 0.8. When I hit enter, it's going to resize. All right, notice it's changing that to a 4. It does not like things to start with zeros. So I'm going to say 1.8, and then I'm going to back up and delete that 1. Then I'll hit enter, and it's the right size. Now I tend to like to put my things in the middle, and you can tell when you're in the middle because of those little cross marks. That way I know that if I put it in the middle of the xTool F1, I'm going to be pretty close. Now I'll also frame it so you'll know exactly where it's going to engrave, but that's a good start. Now I want this to be a little bit taller than that, so I'm going to hit the unlock. That will unlock the proportions, so now I can change the height independently of the width. All right, let's go ahead and move it up. Now it's centered again. Now to pick what I'm engraving on, I'm going to click off of it, and then where it says user defined material, see the bone shape stainless steel dog tag? I click on that. When I click back on this, it shows me my settings. So it tells me I'm using the infrared laser at 100% and a speed of 50. Remember, I don't want a speed of 50, I want a speed of 5. So I'm going to change that to 5. Then I'm going to hit framing. Then I'm ready to open up the F1 and put that tag in it exactly where I want it to be. So I needed to turn my xTool F1 on, and it'll come on here in just a minute, and you'll see up here that it connects. If it doesn't connect on its own, there's something I can do. Okay, it connected on its own. If it hadn't, I would have said connect device. So now I'm ready to hit framing. Once I do, I'll open up the xTool F1, I'll put my dog bone in there, and I'll place it exactly where I want it. Now hopefully you can see the blue line right here. It is framing around where this engrave would occur. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and say stop framing. Then I need to make sure that it's focused. And to make sure it's focused, you see a red dot and a blue dot. I'm going to turn the knob that I showed you earlier until those come together. Once the blue and the red dots come together, it is focused. At this time, I would say process, And then I'd click on start. It's not going to start until I push that button. So I don't have to worry about this not being down or not having glasses on. I'll go ahead and hit start. Now for purposes of this video, I'm going to leave this green shield up. This protects your eyes. Instead of having that down, I'm going to use my safety glasses. Now these glasses are rated for blue light and red light, but I still never look directly at the laser. So I'll press that button on the side and we'll watch this engrave. Now that took just over 11 minutes, and I know that's not really going to be feasible for everything you want to do. But to me, I would rather spend some extra time and get a really great result versus spending a little bit of time and not. Now, if 5% speed is just too slow for you, bump it up to 10. Try that. You're still going to get good results. The next thing I'm going to do is this little ring. And to engrave this, since it won't sit up like this, I have an old ring holder that I'm going to put it in. That's going to hold it up so I can get it nice and flat. Now, I am going to have to change the focus, of course. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll turn that button until the blue dot and the red dot meet. So on the computer, I'm going to say, okay, it's complete. And then I'll highlight this, I'll back over it, and I'm going to put a K there, a capital K. Now I don't want that font. First of all, let me get it in the middle. And then I'll find a better font. I want something really pretty plain. Let's see what this would look like. That's a little too plain. Okay, I think I like that. So that I can see how large it is, let me go ahead and hit framing on the software. And that is tiny. So I'll make this a little bit larger. Let me go ahead and lock the proportions. And I'll just drag it out some. Okay, I'm still not sold with that font. Okay, I like that. It's just nice and simple, nice and plain. I'll go ahead and frame again. Let's see how large that is. And then I'm just moving this box or the ring to get it in the right place. All right, I think that looks pretty good, so I'll say stop framing. Now I'll click on it to choose my settings. I'm still on the 5%. Should we go with 5%? I think we should. Let's see how long it takes. So again, I'll hit process. I'll hit the start button here, and then I'll hit that button on the side of the xTool again. Now, if you have kids or pets, make sure you keep them out of the room when this is going. Close the door, don't let them inside. Now that only took 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I think that is easily worth the wait. Let me go ahead and clean that off. Even though you could make this in about 15 seconds, this is such a higher quality. So for the last thing, I'm going to go ahead and engrave the word lavender on the top of the candle tin. So with this selected, I'm just going to click right here and back over it, and I'll type the word lavender. I'm going to go back to the font lifesavers, and let's put it in the middle again. And for my width, I want it to be 0.8. Now see, I'm trying to type a point and it's not doing anything. What if I point 0.8? See, it changes that first decimal. So to fix that, just go back over it and hit the enter button. Now on this tin is softer than those other metals. So a speed of 10 was perfectly fine. So I'll go right here, select the 5, and I'll change it to 10. Now we're going to have to change the focus because this is a different height. So once again, I turn that button on the right hand side until that red dot and the blue dot come together. Now it's time to frame. So I'll click on framing. Now if you're having a hard time seeing your framing, you can actually lay down a piece of paper. You can see it much better on the paper. But I don't want to deal with that. I can see it fine. It's probably hard for the camera to pick up, but I can see it. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'll stop framing and I'll go ahead and say process. I'll press the start button. And then for this last project, it is time to push that button on the right-hand side of the F1. Now this is going to need cleaned, but let me show you what it looks like to start with. It's a really nice engrave. Now let's wrap this up by looking at the projects. Here's the dog tag, and no matter what angle I'm at, you can tell that's actually engraved. It's not just marked, and I can feel it. And then here's the ring. And then lastly, here's the candle tin. Now I did this before when I was playing with settings. Here was the initial engrave. And then here it is on slower settings. There. I think you can tell that was much better with the slower settings. Now, if you're looking for a laser to engrave on metal, the xTool F1 will engrave on many different metals. However, for me to get great results, I had to slow that speed down, and of course, that decreases the efficiency. Now, if you're really serious about engraving on metal, xTool does have a new F1 Ultra out. It includes a fiber laser. Now, I've never used a fiber laser, but from what I understand, they are great at engraving on metal. So you might check that out as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, and until my next video, bye-bye.